Oh, did I tell you about a dentist recently?
I was going to say a dentist story, but you tell me first.
You'll have to listen to this. So I had like on Good Friday morning of all Good Friday mornings.
Goodie Padwa, Good Friday.
I select like occasions. So my root canal cap comes off. I'm like, oh fuck. And I'm eating poha nicely in the morning. And poha ke saath my teeth cap is also in there. I'm like, okay, now I have to go somewhere. I call my friend. He's like, okay, go to this guy, Sheep. I know him. I'm like, okay, cool, close to my house. I go there in the afternoon. And this guy is also like Catholic, okay? So he's I can't say his name, but he's a Christian. And I'm like, surprisingly, like, why is he open on Good Friday? Like, this guy has very poor morals like me. So I'm like, okay, cool. And I go in there, and then like, he's the fucking quintessential Mangalorean uncle. Just like the highest belt pant over here, and like the most checkered shirt you could find in beige. You know, like that, okay? And but he's very friendly and talking to me nicely. And because he knows my friend, he was just like very cordial and everything. So I'm like, okay. I told him I'm a comedian. He's like, okay, you're a smoker. I'm like, okay with that. And then like he started digging around my mouth. He's like, okay, cap ke saath saath 2 more things are supposed to be done. Spend 20,000 right now. Why don't you? I'm like, let's do one more thing. So I cleaned my teeth and everything, and he was fine. And I was like making jokes throughout because my impulse is to like, you know, because I can't take the drilling of that fucking thing around my calcium teeth. So
your skull.
Yeah. It's like it's a
teeth are a part of your skull, which is why I get scared of dentists. Not because like of the pain. I just feel like they're working on my skull right now.
Yeah, and then like, then we're done with the whole thing, and we go to his office, and now he's like. Because he's like, oh, you're also Mangalorean, I'm also Mangalorean, let's talk about our lives and everything. And I'm like, sure. He's like, what about your parents? Where are they from? I'm like, okay, from this part of Mangalore. And like, he lives like one village away. So he's like, oh, wow, like your parents and I must have played in the Kate at some point. I'm like, so what happens with like a lot of Mangaloreans, and that's my problem, is that they become too chatty and too friendly too soon. He talked to me about like my family, my life, and I gave him all the information because he seemed like a nice guy. Then he was like, what about marriage? And I'm like, I'm not planning to get married. Not like at least to a girl. He's like, oh, what do you mean by that? And I'm like, I'm gay. So he's like, oh, cool. See, I've never had like a proper discussion with someone who's a homosexual. But tell me, and I'm like, okay, so I'm like, if he wants to have a rational discussion, I'm all up for it. I'm always up for like, you know, giving people information that they haven't learned to help their prejudice or whatever. And I'm like, okay, tell me. He's like, isn't homosexuality a disease? I'm like, oh shit. You have to start off from the bottom of the barrel and up with this guy.
I am one of those people, I have a problem. I go to the dentist, I open my mouth, I'm like, is it syphilis? Like, even I had a recent skin rash, I went, is this syphilis? Like, I don't know why. I just randomly, I walk in only asking, like, is it? Because I'm terrified all the time. And I know that's a big thing in our community. Everyone's constantly terrified. But now I feel like, what worries me more is that I don't think people are terrified anymore. There's PrEP now. Oh, HIV is not a death sentence anymore. So it's like, there's some sort of chalta hai kind of thing that's, I don't know, because but talking like, to you, I realized that, no, these are still relevant problems. It's not how I see it in my head. Like when you told me, the number one issues that you guys still face is coming out to family. In my head, or our privileged heads, we just live thinking that nowadays we live in a world where it's obviously easier to come out to your parents, or like everybody's gay aajkal thoda to sab, you know, like that's where we are. But these are real problems that still exist.
And not enough reports come out also about people committing suicide who are like going through mental issues and also diagnosed with HIV at some point. Like I have several friends over the past 3 years, like, you know, have taken their own life or lost their lives, and nobody spoke about it. Nobody gave a shit. And that's the reality which was there in the 80s, and it's still prevalent, and it's kind of scary.
Yeah, like LGBT, like they will talk about, I think a couple of years ago it said India had the highest rates of suicides, but they will not break that report down into how many of them are LGBTQI Indians who are committing suicide. So anyway, that number is bound to be underreported because people are still not okay with reporting that they're queer.